What's good, y'all? It's your boy Sean P, the Blunt guy. Hey! And today we are back with another Berserk read-through. This time we will be reading chapter 6. For all you guys who aren't using like the same type of app that I'm using, I know the app might be a little off, right? The app that I'm using off. It's easier for me to say chapter 6. But for y'all, we're going with the Guardians of Desire arc chapter 4. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like button. Also subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, of course. Also join the Discord if you are looking for a community to be a part of. And without any further ado, let's get into the chapter. There's this one dope cover page where we got like this guy in like look like a falcon armor. Look pretty dope though, you know. Look pretty dope. I don't know who this character is, but the armor he got look pretty dope. It's like a falcon helmet and look like he got wings. Like the cape kind of looked like wings. Looking at a cover page with Guts holding his big sword. The Guardians of Desire chapter 4. We see the Count, you know, kind of looming over Guts' body as he's laid out, stretched out on this pillar as Puck looks on. The Count says, "It's over." And then Puck looks and says, "Guts!" Puck goes over to Guts and says, "What's wrong with you? Come on. Is this how it's going to end? It can't be over. You, who were always so high and mighty, always putting other people down. Wake up, dummy. Wake." And Guts' eyes are just like white. They're just white, right? Like almost like he's dead. I don't think he's dead, of course. And Puck says, "Oh." The Count says, "No matter how much you've tried to hone your skills, you've come to the limit of your pathetic human form. How fragile you humans." Puck says, What did you say? What the hell did you say? Look who's bragging, Baldy. You yourself used to be one of those fragile humans." The Count says, "What's that?" Puck says, It's true. Teresa told me how you went crazy after your wife was killed 7 years ago. You acquired those powers so you could get revenge on the heretics, didn't you? But that wasn't the only reason. If it was only about revenge, all you had to do was exercise your authority. Because the truth is, you became this thing to run away from the pain inside your own heart, to run away from yourself. You threw away your humanity. If anyone's a fragile human, it's you. The Count says, "Ha ha ha, what a surprise. I always thought that elves had the intellect of a bird or a squirrel, but you're quite talkative, aren't you?" Puck says, "Squirrel?" Count says, "An amazing speech, and for that I'll spare your life. Now get out of my sight and be gone." Puck looks in anger, just like a human to try and cover up a sore spot like that. Puck over here talking that mess, man. Puck over here talking that mess. The Count looks down at him, kind of a little angered by that. As I was saying, we see that little egg kind of drop on Puck's head. Count looks in shock. I guess he sees that egg. And Puck says, "A Bahilit?" The Count says, "Ha, ha, ha, ha. You saved me the trouble of looking for it myself." So the Count reaches for the Bahilit, but Puck picks it up and flies away with it. The Count says, "Fool." Puck says, If you think I'm going to hand this over to the likes of you, you've got another thing coming." I'm assuming the Count is pursuing Puck and the Bahilit, right? While Puck is like grabbing, he has like the nose and the lip of the Bahilit, and you can see the Bahilit. It's almost like a tear, like it's almost like the Bahilit must be able to feel pain or something, because like Puck is pulling on the lip and the nose, and there's a tear coming out of the Bahilit's eye. The Count says, "Insect." Puck says, "Whoa!" When it comes to making a getaway, I'm the one with the advantage, fathead. Hey, bro, you better chill, Puck. You better chill. Puck is thinking to himself, he says, that's right. If I'm flying, you can't possibly. And we see a bunch of rocks hitting Puck in the head. Puck falls and also drops the Bahilit. Count says, fool, you pathetic elf. If you wish to die that much, so be it. The doors of the chamber burst open and Teresa enters the chambers and says, Puck. The Count looks shocked. He notices his daughter. The Count looks almost disgusted. I'm assuming he didn't want Teresa to see him in this form, but now she sees him and he can't avoid it. Teresa looks and says, no. She looks in disgust and the Count looks in disgust that she sees this. Teresa says, no. Puck says, Teresa. The Count says, Teresa. Teresa has like these tears in her eyes and then she runs away. She goes hide behind a column. So she's hiding behind this column and says, oh. And you see her shaking. She's trembling. The Count is looking over to her behind this column and he says, Teresa. And he looks disappointed. Puck says, Teresa. And the Count goes to pursue. But you see his face just blackened out. And then he turns around with this very menacing glare. His bottom teeth are like clenching down. Puck looks in fear and he gulps. I'm assuming the Count is just like, you know what? It is what it is. This is your guys' fault that Teresa had to see this. So he's pissed off. He pursues Puck. And we see all these little hands coming from his body towards Puck. Puck's thinking, my body won't move. The Count just looks bloodlusted at this point. Puck says, I'm gonna die. And we see these little arrowheads flying through the air. I knew it. I knew Teresa was going to pretty much, arrive and pretty much give Puck and Guts enough time to survive so Guts can recover and eventually get some type of opening. That's what it's looking like. So we see these little arrowheads sticking in the Count's face. One of them is in the other, or the same eye that Guts already slashed open. It would have been nice if he got him in his working eye, because then it would blind the Count. And he looks and says, you. We see Guts' feet and blood dripping down his leg. He's gripping his sword. Puck says, Guts, you jerk. You big stupid jerk. You were just pretending to be dead, weren't you? I really thought you were a goner. What's the big idea, always acting so tough? Why don't you just go off and die? We see Guts facing off against the Count. Count says, you're still alive? Puck says, wait a sec, Guts. Don't be so rash. You'll die. Guts has a smirk on his face. Puck says, he smiled. Guts says, not good enough. Just 2 or 3 broken bones. If you want to stop me, you're going to have to crush my skull or pierce my heart. Just like you, slug. And he kind of like waves at Count to come over to him. And then the Count rushes Guts. Count says, no mercy. No mercy for you, worm. So the Count is rushing Guts. Puck is screaming, Guts! He pretty much takes a kick from the Count. Puck is looking on while we see Guts fall into another pillar. And he falls like head first into this pillar. He says, go, and he starts coughing up this blood. Puck is thinking, what's he thinking? It's just getting worse and worse. And we see the Count standing over Guts' body. Puck is thinking he's gonna die. The Count is going in for the kill. Guts looks, and then he grabs Teresa by the arm. I guess she was behind the column. Count looks like shocked and displeased. Guts is using Teresa as a hostage. Guts is by any means necessary type of guy, and I like it. I think this part is kind of foul, but just the attitude by any means necessary. It's kind of refreshing to see like a main character like this, right? Like by any means necessary. But it is a little messed up though. It is a little messed up. I'm not rooting for this young girl to die, you know. So, but he knows that the Count is not gonna kill this girl. He knows that. So I don't think Guts is like, he's using her as a shield, but I believe that he know that Count is not gonna kill him if he has her hostage. So I get it. Guts has Teresia hostage. Puck looks at him, a little shocked, but Guts is like dead serious. And the Count says, bastard. Teresia is crying. Count says, Teresia. And we see Guts take a step, cock back his little hand cannon. You see the cannon come out from under the prosthetic hand. And Guts shoots like a point blank range shot to the Count in the face in this double spread. This double page spread. Puck and Teresa looks on, and we see that the Count took a little damage to the face from this shot. And Guts looks at his handiwork, and he goes to reach for his sword. So Guts' hand is kind of wrangled. Like his fingers are broken. He was originally going for his sword, but he looked like, what's going on? And so the Count is still pretty damaged. Like his whole left side of his face is damaged. And Guts like bends down towards his sword, grabs his sword with his teeth, and he picks it up with a little assistance of his prosthetic arm. Guts done turned to Zoro. Bruh, Guts has he has a strong jaw though if he's able to pick up his sword with his jaw. That big ass, like Zoro's swords are normal size swords, right? Like they have a little weight to them. I'm not saying they're light by any means, but they're normal size swords. Guts has a huge sword though, so him being able to pick it up with his mouth, even though he is kind of assisting it with his arm, that's some jaw muscles. This must not be the first time he had to use his mouth in order to hold his sword, I'm assuming. And Guts look like he slashes the Count's neck. So the Count's head is pretty much detached from his body as Puck and Teresa both look on. Guts falls to the ground, also releasing his sword. So we get kind of a wider angle of what happened. We see the Count's body kind of fall, like his head's falling off of the body, and I'm assuming the rest of the body is also collapsing at the moment. Guts looks pretty much like he's out of the game at this point. You know, he fell to the floor. His sword's to the left of him. Hey, Guts been through it. Puck is looking. He's looking over at Teresia. Teresia is pretty much feeling super emotional. You see tears coming from her eyes, and she's shaking. Her arms are folded, and Puck just looks worried. He looks worried for her, and then we see Guts getting back up, using one of the pillars, one of the columns to help assist him back up. Guts is, getting up with some assistance from the wall. Puck says he planned that. He was counting on taking Teresa as a hostage all along. So we see the Count's head just laying on a column, but there's like tentacles coming out from the bottom portion of his head, of the decapitated part of his head. The Count says, damn you. I'm assuming he's trying to regenerate, right? Because Guts sticks a knife straight through his face, like from his mouth. We hear the Count screaming, ah! And Guts is pretty much just slicing his face open. Guts says, I'll show you the limit of a human being. Yeah, we're fragile, all right. We humans. And the Count is just looking like terrified, and he's looking in terror because he's getting the taste of his own medicine though, right? And Guts just starts slicing the Count's face. The Count screams, eee! And Teresa looks on in horror, and she says, no. Puck says, Teresia. And Teresa's sobbing and crying. Puck says, stop it. Not in front of the little girl. That little girl, Teresia, she's completely innocent. And all you see is Guts swing the knife at Puck, and he has the knife like right at Puck's neck. He has the knife right at Puck's neck. Hey, Puck, mind your business, Chief. Mind your business. Guts says, shut up. If you get in the way, I'll kill you. Hey, bro. Guts is at least consistent. He's at least consistent on how he talks to Puck. Puck is just the stubborn one that keeps following Guts around. But he's consistent to how, even though there is part of me that believe that Guts do kind of, like Puck is starting to kind of wear on Guts. Like, Guts is kind of starting to care about him. I think. I could be completely wrong, but I think there's going to come a point where Guts is going to actually kind of care about Puck. And I think Guts do kind of have a care for people. I think he cared about Vargas. You know, I think he wanted to save Vargas, but he just wasn't going to sacrifice his life in order to save Vargas. But, you know, I could be wrong about that. So we see Guts with the knife to Puck's neck, and we see Teresa in the corner like shaking and trembling, and then Guts smirks, and then we see, I'm assuming Guts sticks his prosthetic arm into the Count's mouth. He pretty much is picking up the Count's portion of his face, and he says, always so stuck up, Count. Let's give your sweet little daughter a look at the proud face now. Teresa says, The Count says, please stop. Guts is like smothering his head into the column or something, or to the ground, and says, stop. Don't be so shy. Take a good hard look at a body that doesn't die. And Guts just stabs his knife into the Count's face, while Puck and Teresa looks on as Guts just continues to just stab him in the face, and we see blood just pouring out to the ground. Damn, man, Guts is ruthless, man. Like, now I'm really like just intrigued to see what Guts has gone through that just turned him into this, right? Because you could almost say Guts is a demon himself. Almost, he could be looked at, to some people, he could be looked at as a monster, even though he's killing his monster that does deserve it. Like, look, everything Guts is doing right now to the Count, I believe the Count deserves it, right? I believe that the Count deserves it. Teresa, I don't believe she deserves it, though. I don't believe she deserves this torment that Guts is putting her through. Even though I'm not saying Guts is necessarily putting Teresa. I don't think he's like trying to torture her. He's more just enjoying torturing the Count, even though it's at Teresa's expense. But Guts don't care though. So I just want to know. I'm just starting to be more and more intrigued to see what Guts went through, the stuff that he went through that made him like this. So Guts is still stabbing the Count's face, and he says, "Amazing. You really are superhuman. You really don't die, do you?" We see a tear coming from the Count. Bruh, Guts is going to work, bro. He's giving the Count all the medicine back. All his medicine back, bro. We see all these just blood squirting from the Count's face. Puck and Teresa still just looking in terror. And Puck is thinking, why? Why go that far? Teresa says, oh. Puck says, Teresa. Guts is still stabbing him until his little knife just eventually breaks. Guts falls to the floor. The Count, I think, is finally dead. I think the Count is dead at this point. And Guts starts laughing. Guts is still laughing. Ha 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 ha. Puck looks in disgust, and Guts is just leaning back on a pillar, just laughing, having a ball. Guts is ruthless. He is a savage. He is a savage. So Guts is laying next to the dead head of the Count, and we see blood, like blood is like just rot, like it's blood is like sliding down the floor, and we see the Bahilit pretty much getting drenched in his blood. The Count says, no, I don't want to die. And the Bahilit is just sitting there with this blood on him. Sleep, obviously. I don't know. I guess he's sleeping. The Count says, I don't want to die. Guts gets up with a serious face this time. And he looks over at the Bahilit. Puck says, Guts, it's... Guts looks shocked. The Bahilit. And this time the Bahilit, its face is all like put together this time. You know, the eyes are where you expect the eyes to be. The nose where it's supposed to be. And it's like screaming out. And it's in like blood coming from the eyes. And the Bahilit has this super serious face with blood draining from its eyes. We get a double page spread. And it looks like some labyrinth where we see the left eye on the right page and the right eye on the left page of the Bahilit. All of a sudden, we see Guts, Puck, and Teresia all in this labyrinth. And we also see the head of the Count still laying next to Guts. Puck says, what? What's going on here? Guts is thinking it's another dimension. The Count's head said, they're coming. The Great Ones are coming. So now I'm starting to assume that the Count he's not a God Hand member. That's what I'm assuming. He's not a God Hand member. I think maybe he's just a apostle. He's an apostle. And now that I think about it, coming from something that was said earlier in the arc, I think the Count originally met God's hand. Like when he found the Bahilit, he met God's hand. So if he met them, that means he must have not. It means that they already existed way before he became whatever he became, right? So maybe God hand isn't like something you can achieve. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming that's what it is. In one of the labyrinth entrances, right? We see a shadowy silhouette. We see like a shadow. We see a shadow of somebody. And Guts start cringing in pain. Puck says, Guts. And now he's coughing up blood like, oh, on the ground, writhing in pain. Puck looks back. In one of the panels, we see like a silhouette, a shadowy silhouette. I want to say we see other silhouettes as well. I could be wrong, but it looked like I'm looking at like maybe 4 silhouettes in one of these panels, like 4 of them, maybe even 5. I'm not sure, but Guts is on the floor, kind of looking up in shock, and we see one of the figures at the top of the steps where Guts is Guts is at the bottom of the steps, and the figure is at the top of the steps, and it looks like the same figure that we seen in the beginning of the chapter, like on the cover page, like that falcon looking armor guy. And Guts looks up in pain. So now I'm assuming this is God's hand, because we get a double cover spread with the guy that I was talking about, the guy who looked like he has the falcon armor. To the left of him is some small Buddha-looking monster. Well, it's 2 like Buddha-looking demons. One of them has tentacles though, and he's like upside down. And then we have on the right page, we have like a guy who's upside down. He kind of looked like the Predator or something. And then all the way to the right looks like a female that kind of look a little bit like Medusa. Like she has this long, snaky looking hair. I mean, it doesn't look like snakes. It don't look like they're alive, but like her hair looks like snakyish. This looks to be God's hand in this labyrinth. It says the Guardians of Desire, chapter 4, end. So yeah, that is the end of the chapter. Man, so I was not expecting us to see God's hand this quick. Now, before I get to that, well, I'm gonna talk about God's hand, because the rest of the chapter, it was great action. But we gotta talk about God's hand. Like, I was not expecting to see them so quickly. My question is it blood that activates the Bahilit? If blood touches it, like maybe it has to be a substantial amount of blood to pretty much activate the Bahilit. Because we see that all this time we've been around the Bahilit, it never really did anything. I mean, you see sometimes its eye open, the mouth opens, like Puck was grabbing the mouth and it was kind of like, and then it was like, you see a tear coming from one of the eyes. So it does move around, but when it interacted with the Count's blood, that's when it actually activated. So I'm assuming blood activates it. So maybe it's some type of ritual, right? Where you have to kill somebody, especially if you need a substantial amount of blood. At least with the Count, he's hard to kill. He could bleed enough to activate the Bahilit without dying. Versus like if you had a human, the amount of blood that you would need from a human would kill them. You know what I'm saying? So most of the time, if you want to activate the Bahilit, maybe you need to sacrifice a human so you can get enough blood in order to activate it. Like that could be the case. Because I wouldn't think like just a little bit of blood touching it will activate it, because we see Guts carrying this Bahilit around and he bleeds a lot. So I would think that some of that blood would indirectly get on the Bahilit, but it hasn't activated while Guts has been carrying it around. So, you know, maybe it's like a significant amount of blood touching the Bahilit in order for it to activate. That's what I'm kind of thinking. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it requires like a demon's blood or an apostle's blood in order to activate. I don't know. Again, these are things I'm gonna probably learn more as we go along. That's just kind of my observation on how we got to this point. The Bahilit interacted with the blood and then it activated. We're in this labyrinth with the God's hand. I didn't think we would be here this soon. Another thing worth noting is Guts. How savage Guts is. He was willing to put this innocent young girl through all this trauma just to torture this apostle, just to like make him suffer, you know. And I kind of think her suffering, it made the Count suffer, because the Count didn't want his daughter to see all this and go through all this pain. So that's why Guts was willing to traumatize this young woman, just because he knew it was feeding into the pain of the Count. So that's pretty ruthless of Guts. It just makes me wonder, like, what did Guts go through? You know, what has Guts been through that made him like this? Because he didn't care. He didn't care. He was willing to use her as a hostage. He was willing to put her through all this trauma. He didn't care. He was laughing about it the whole time. He was having a blast at the expense of her tears. As far as the rest of this chapter, you know, definitely enjoyed it. A lot of action. We got the conclusion to this fight. And yeah, so great chapter. Definitely enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, follow me on Twitch. Also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and join the Discord. It's your boy Sean P, the Bluff God, and I'm out of here. Y'all have a good evening. Peace.